Hey, what's up guys? Thanks for stopping by the channel. So for this video, we're going to be taking a look at a fairly cool pilot watch to come out of the German manufacturer Stowa. Now Stowa happens to be one of the original 5 Flieger manufacturers for the German military back during World War II, and they do share that distinction with the likes of IWC, A. Lange & Söhne, Wempe, and Laco. The watch on the wrist happens to be one of their Flieger Classic 40s, but this one has the distinction of being a limited sunburst blue dial option. And it really is restricted to 1 of 100 pieces, so I was quite keen to pick it up from another Canadian watch enthusiast. But if you do enjoy this type of design, you can also easily go up and pick up a Flieger Classic 40 from their website. It's one of their best-selling models, and it's highly configurable. You can purchase this timepiece with a manual wind movement versus a Swiss automatic movement. You can get it with a date or no date configuration, and you can even get it with or without the Stowa logo printed on the dial. So with all that being said, why don't we flip the camera around now and you guys can actually take a closer look at this limited edition blue sunburst pilot watch from Stowa. So now that we're in the studio, we can take a closer look at this Stowa Flieger Classic 40 with the limited edition blue dial. Now, as the name suggests, this is in fact a 40mm case diameter, though with the dial real estate, I do think it wears probably more like a 41 or a 42mm timepiece. For contrast, maybe I'll just quickly hold up my recently acquired IWC Pilot's chronograph. This is a 41mm case diameter, but you can just see with respect to dials, it almost looks smaller than the Stowa that's here. Now regarding other case dimensions, if I flip the watch to the side, lug to lug, I measure this at 47.9mm. Case thickness, or I should say case thinness, is only 10.3mm. It's a screwed down case back with a sapphire see-through display, and then to the top of another flat sapphire crystal that does carry some anti-reflective treatment, although you can see under harsh lighting you do still get some reflections. Probably that's more of a function of the sunray blue dial. If it was a more traditional matte black dial, I don't think you'd be seeing as much reflections. And I'll also mention that the lug opening for the supplied OEM leather strap is a nice even 20mm, should you want to accessorize with other straps that are out there. This brown leather one's quite nice and supple. It does taper to about 18mm as you get to the tail portion of a strap. Calfskin lining on the bottom. And I'll also mention that it does come with a nice Stowa signed buckle. And here's an in-studio wrist shot just to show you how this Stowa Flieger Classic would fit on a 7.5-inch wrist. That's actually 19 centimeters in circumference if you're going with the metric system. And you can see that the watch lies very flat on my wrist and it's thin in profile, but you still get some good wrist presence with it. Now it only weighs in at 69 grams on the supplied strap, so very good watch for all day comfort, and it's an absolute strap monster, so you can definitely throw this on different straps, and it does change the character of how that dial looks as well. So on the topic of this dial, most Fliegers are fairly sterile and prioritize legibility. This watch does a good job with that, but you do get a bit more of a dynamic character with the sunray blue dial here. It actually looks quite dark under certain lighting conditions, but then you take it out into the sunlight or you hold it at an oblique angle, and it really just pops. There's this radial sunburst pattern that just propagates out from the center of a dial. And again, quite a dynamic looking watch. I do really like the Arabic numerals that are used. You got 1 to 11 that's thickly printed on the dial. And then of course for orientation, you got the triangle with the 2 dots at the 12 o'clock position. A really nicely framed and stepped down date cutout at the 6 o'clock to maintain the symmetry of the dial. And they really did a great job color matching the date disc, and you have white printing for the day of the month to match the stark white printing of all the other markers that are utilized. Now, the handset is that classic sword style handset that are used by a lot of different Fliegers that are out there. And I really like how the seconds hand reaches all the way to the running minute track at the edge of the dial. So getting a very good read of time at a glance is easy to do. Now, one thing that a lot of German manufacturers also do is thermally blue their handset, which is a nice touch. Although with this particular blue dial, sometimes that character on the hands get lost. Under most situations, I think it looks like there's nothing really bordering the hands that are there, but you still can appreciate the thermally blued hands again, especially in bright sunny conditions or at various angles. Now, outside of the dial, you have a fairly utilitarian bead blasted finish for the bezel and the case. One nice detail is on the crown, which is a large, oversized onion-style crown. It's a push-pull crown, and this watch is water resistant to 50 meters, but that just means that you can easily manually wind this movement if it's running low on juice in that position. If you open it to the first position, you can quickly cycle through the days of the month that are here. And then if you do pull the crown to extremity, this movement has hacking seconds, and you can easily set to any reference time that you like. Now you might be wondering, what movement is powering this watch? Well, let's flip it over so you can see the see-through caseback. So looking through the display sapphire caseback, you can see that there is a signed rotor that informs you that this is in fact a top grade ETA 2824-2 movement that is regulated by Stowa. They do some nice decorations to this movement as well. They thermally blew a lot of the screw heads. You can see some nice perlage work on some of the base plates, and there's some even arabesque patterns that are closer to the edge of the movement that's done there as well. And when you factor in that this watch is around 1,200 to 1,300 euros normally, I think it's a pretty nice looking movement for the price point. So flipping this watch back over to the dial side, I wanted to briefly mention how well the Lume is on this watch. Stowa did an excellent job applying C3 Swiss Superluminova very evenly to not just the hour markers, but to the individual running minute tracks, to the handset, and that seconds hand is fully lumed, which is no easy task to do. So orientation and reading this watch in the dark is very good. So that's my overview for this Stowa Flieger Classic 40 with the limited edition blue dial. With respect to potential points for improvement, I'm really just going to nitpick on some personal preferences. For one, the thermally blued hands I don't think is that viewable, so maybe they could have just used some nice silver rhodium plating to make that dial just pop a little bit more. And then for me, I really like to accessorize this watch with straps, so it would have been nice to see drilled lug holes here, just so you can gain access to the spring bar in the middle here a lot easier, and you're not going to be scratching up your lugs in the process as much. But outside of that, I do think that this is a phenomenal pilot's watch for the money. You do see this particular model come up on the used market every now and then, but as I mentioned before, feel free to check out the Stowa website if you want to order from them directly, and you can get a very similar pilot watch with the more traditional matte black dial for not a lot of money. Now, if you do enjoy this content, please consider subscribing to the channel. And as always, if you have questions or comments about this particular watch, do leave them in the comments section of this video. I do always check those out too. And as always, I can't wait to catch you guys in the next video.